Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm right now preparing some practice fingers so that you can see the difference between cuticle application with acrylic and cuticle application with gel. So I've had some students ask, how do you know how close to get it? How thick should they be? I'm going to show you guys some great techniques that are really going to make whether you use acrylic or gel, it's going to make a lot of sense so that you guys don't have to struggle with the application. So I'm just going through preparation. I've removed shine from the surface of the nail, and I'm adding protein bond to the surface. For those of you guys that just joined us, make sure to smash that like button. And for product information, you guys can go to www.youngnails.com. We've got a killer sale going on right now. For those of you guys that use protein bond, there is a BOGO deal. Take advantage of it for sure. Okay, remember, smash that like button. All right, so when it comes to acrylic application, what we want to accomplish is trying to get this, okay? And this is really important because if you are working, again, if this is, right, the surface of the nail, right, this is the natural nail, we want to try our best to get this, right, this right here, right, with acrylic. And again, you want to be able to get that with gel. And it doesn't have to be this flush. It could be slightly rounded up, right? But you're going to end up filing it into precision. The key to getting it this tight is knowing how close to lay it to the cuticle area, and then also knowing, the right technique so that when you lay it down, right, on the nail, you're not going to have any issues at all. Okay, so I'm going to be using acrylic first to show you guys. It doesn't matter what acrylic, whether you're using Cover Pink, Speed Clear, any one of the powders that we have in the line, this is going to help tremendously. Okay, so what I need to make sure I do, and for those of you guys that joined, just make sure to smash that like button. I need to get a bead that's going to self-level, right? So really important that when you submerge your brush, tap, and you pull down and bounce inside the powder, you're going to get a fluffy bead. You see that, how it melts so quickly, right? This is also going to give you the ability, check this out, to basically release from the brush without sticking. Okay, so we need to get that type of consistency. This is really important. Also, when you set acrylic to the cuticle area, you have to make sure that you're not holding the finger flat. If you hold the finger flat and push like this, watch what happens. You end up flooding the whole back end and creating a mushroom cloud. The mushroom cloud is going to end up floating this way, and as you can see, flooding the whole entire cuticle area. This is not what we want to be able to do. We want to be able to set this down in the least amount of effort, right? Okay, so we have to keep the finger pointed down. So if we were looking at a side profile, we want the finger pointed down like this. We do not want it flat like this. It's also important to understand the brush. Look at this. If the brush is straight and the finger is angled, take a look at the angle the cuticle goes in. If I have the finger flat and my brush flat, look how thick the cuticle area becomes. We don't want it like that. We want to be able to be in a comfortable position so that when I'm resting, right, the handle in the crease of my hand, all I have to do is set it down and then use this part of the brush, right, this very, very tip of the brush, just to touch around. I want to be able to contour around the cuticle area. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We need to pick up a bead. Let's get this flat. I need to get self-leveling, right? So if I submerge my brush and get a lot of liquid, and I lightly tap, and I pull down, pull, bounce, bounce, bounce. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, at 4. If I release, look at the space. All I have to do is use the tip of the brush to walk around the perimeter of the nail. Now, I want to show you something. At this point, without doing anything, take a look, right? You can see how nice and tight everything is around the cuticle area. Okay, so again, I'm not going to let it sit like that. That's not the intention, right? The intention is to get it to flow from this point to this point in the least amount of effort. For those of you guys that are wondering, if I can't answer any questions, there is a moderator on here that's going to be able to help you guys out. And then if you guys, again, have any product, if you need any product questions, you can go to www.youngnails.com. Make sure to smash that like button. Okay, so again, we want to be in a position where when we set it down, you can see the tip of the brush is flat, and all I want to be able to do is set it down and then walk around. So it's like I touch it, touch it, touch it, touch it, touch it, touch it, okay? Then as it starts to move down, I don't want to force it. As it starts to move down, all I have to do is brush the side and through the body, and this will create that natural arch. So if I submerge my brush, again, I don't want to do this. I don't want to take my brush and remove the liquid here and here and here and here and here and then water ski across the surface. This is what's you're gonna end up with something that looks really crappy like this, right? Another problem that a lot of beginners have is they do this. Let's say you're successful at actually touching out the liquid, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna kind of like hope that the brush will pick it up. And what I mean by that is you'll do this. You'll get a lot of liquid and you'll just barely touch the surface, hoping that the tip of the brush will pick it up. And what ends up happening is it falls back inside the powder. And then you're like, I gotta get it, I gotta get it, I gotta get it, I gotta get it, I gotta get it. And before you know it, you're gonna pick up this giant asteroid. You don't wanna do that. For those of you guys that just joined us, make sure to smash that like button. Go to www.youngnails.com. Okay, so what we wanna be able to do, I want to be able to submerge my brush again, lightly tap, load the brush, pull down. Look at this, pull down. I want to show you, see that divot that I create? If I physically pull down on a flat spot and bounce, I'm always going to get a fluffy bead on one side of my brush. Okay, now depending on the temperature of your salon, if it's warm, then you want to release faster. If it's cooler, you want to wait a few seconds. Right now, with the temperature inside here being close to 80 degrees, I'm going to release this quite fast. So submerge my brush, lightly tap, pull down, bounce, bounce, bounce. 1, 2, 3, release. Use the tip of my brush, lightly touch around the edge. See the sides? Watch this. From the side, lightly pull. From the front, lightly pull. I do not touch the back anymore. So you'll notice as I continue to feather the acrylic down towards the tip with light pressure, you're going to, look at that. Even right here, you see that little bit of a ledge? If I just brush that ledge out, look at how tight it becomes. And you're gonna notice by looking down the barrel of the nail, do you see how rounded it is? Right? And that's what we want to be able to accomplish. You have to be able to set the cuticle area, again, with the least amount of effort so that you don't have to jackhammer it into shape, right? The biggest mistake that a lot of beginners make, right? Let's go ahead and remove this real fast before it sets. The biggest mistake that a lot of beginners make, you just lightly buff the surface if there's any residue on here, okay, is they'll do this, right? They'll grab their brush, okay? They'll hold the finger too flat. Let's say you're successful at actually picking it up. And what they'll do is they'll try to get it right on the cuticle like that. And then you'll notice that everything just sits there. It's not moving. So at this point, everyone panics who doesn't know. And what they do is they try to swivel around the edge, right? And then you're left with you're like, oh my gosh, I got to start patting this out. You don't pat. If you start to pat it out, all it does is push everything to the side, right? You don't want to be in that position. You have to allow the bead to self-level. So if I was going to draw this out, and you notice that, like, if this was the nail, the natural nail, right? If I set the bead down here, right, with the finger pointed down to the bottom, if the if the tip of the brush, right, it's going to act like a barrier between the cuticle area. But as soon as I set it down, look at this. If this is the brush, do you see the contour that it actually makes right there by just lightly pressing? So most of the pressure that you're working around the cuticle area, it's not just going to be here. You're going to be touching, just literally around the edges to make sure that you have it absolutely tight around that cuticle area. For those of you guys that joined us, make sure to smash that like button. Okay, so for those of you guys, again, that are practicing acrylic application, right? It doesn't, like, I'm working here because of the focus. The focus is here. It's not here. It's all around the perimeter. For those people that are learning to gain speed on their application, you're also going to notice, let me just kind of bring this out so that you can see. I have my hand in this position. I have it resting. I'm not going to grip it, right, with the G.I. Joe death grip, right? What I need is I need to relax. That way, when I'm actually holding my finger, look at this. I can position my finger like this so I can balance. And if you're looking at this from the side profile, take a look at this. My brush is flat, right? I'm not like this. I'm not like this. I'm not like this. This, like, you have no control over the product like this. You want to be in a position like you're writing so that when you set it down to the cuticle area, you have contact, which is good balance. And then you're going to notice that when you set it down to the cuticle area, all I have to do is touch. So from this angle, watch this. If I submerge the brush, I pull down on the powder, I bounce, 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 I wait. 1, 2, 3. I set it down, release. I could use, it's almost like I'm lightly sliding it. Just lightly sliding it, and I'm kind of turning the finger. So at this point, watch this, from the side, all I have to do is lightly brush the side. Look at the tip of the brush. From the front, I don't touch the back. The biggest mistake, another mistake that a lot of beginners make, let's say you are successful at setting it down. Watch this. If you are someone who's starting and you're not comfortable with the consistency of the product because the acrylic is really wet from the start, watch what happens. If I take my brush and I pick this up, and let's say you are successful and you go like this, you set it down and you start to panic and you go like this, you just brush it, you see what ends up happening? If I set this down and just start brushing it off, I'm not giving it a chance to mold into perfection. I have to allow the product to breathe for a couple of seconds. Let me go ahead and wipe this off again. Again, for those of you guys that are practicing, definitely helps, if you're working on a surface, a convex surface like this. Okay, so what we want to be able to do is put ourselves in a position so the product self-levels from this point to this point in the least amount of effort. For those of you guys that just joined us, make sure to smash that like button. And again, www.youngnails.com. Okay, so let's go in and get this dialed, right? So right here from bird's eye view, you're going to notice, right? When I set it down, the motion I'm going to make, my brush is flat. I'm literally going to, touch, getting it as close to the cuticle. As it starts to move down to the side, the tip of the brush is going to feather from the front end, creating that natural arch. Submerge my brush, touch. Again, let me get the powder inside here so that you guys can see. Submerge my brush, touch, pull down, bounce, bounce, bounce. Count, 1, 2, 3, 4, release. I'm literally going to use the tip of my brush and just lightly touch as close. Once I'm done touching around the cuticle area, from the side, start using light pressure because we're blending into the body. Don't worry about the front end. Imagine the nail being this long, right? You're going to use blending beads, right, to create and fill the rest of the nail. But the hardest part to master is this area. You have to be able to do this in one bead. If you're able to do it in one bead, you don't have lifting. If you're able to do it in one bead, you have more consistency. If you're able to do it in one bead, it allows you to use the tip of the brush to lightly touch around the cuticle, creating the perfect area for you to file into perfection in the least amount of effort. Okay, so that's acrylic. If you are working with gel, this is crazy. So the advantage of gel is that it self-levels around the cuticle area. So once you have the base gel down, I'm gonna be using the precision applicator. You don't have to worry about it drying. The best part about doing gel is I wanna focus, right, on kind of squeezing this out around the cuticle area. So if I'm using the precision applicator, watch this. If I get this around, right, I'm just gonna kind of squeeze out a nice healthy amount. I'm lightly going to work on the surface. I do not have to worry about trying to press it tight. All I'm going to do is focus on getting a nice bead as close as I can. That is good enough. And then you're going to notice as I continue to work the product out of the tube and down the nail, my focus is making sure that the perimeter of the nail is going to be tight. Okay, so watch this. I'm gonna lightly squeeze this all the way down to the very, very edge, keeping light contact to the surface, okay? Now, once I have that on, right, with the tip of my brush, if I grab my brush and I just kind of lightly work around the edge, I wanna show you something, right? All I have to do is just lightly maneuver all the way around, making sure that I have great, right, contact close to the cuticle. I don't wanna press it out. Now you're gonna notice something. From the side profile, as the gel starts to self-level, right, it creates a rounded edge. You have to remember that gel is going to file twice as easy as acrylic. And the biggest mistake that a lot of people working with gel, they don't think they have enough. Once you apply your initial coat of gel around the perimeter of the nail, you don't have to do any more. That is it. So the base gel goes down, you build the body, right? Really focusing on getting it around the perimeter of the nail. Allow it to self-level. Do not add any more around this area. The only area we have to focus on is through here, right? Right, so gel is easier because it self-levels into perfection. The only thing that we have to do when we're working with this type of quantity is I would freeze it in front of the light, right? So if I was working with it with gel, right, like this, then I would, to prevent any type of thermal reaction from happening, right, you're going to notice, right, if this is the light, right, I would keep it in front of the light just like this to freeze it into shape, expose it to the light for about 30 or 40 seconds, and then go inside the light. And what that's going to do, it's going to help the customer have a controlled, warm, right, not too hot of an application. The reason why gel gets hot is because it cures so fast, right? So if you understand how to use the freezing technique, this is going to allow the comfort, right? This is going to allow the client to experience a comfortable application, right? Instead of something that sets super fast and creates kind of that thermal reaction, that warming effect on the nail. All right, so that's the difference. Again, right, this is going to file a lot easier. The struggle with acrylic is getting it super tight, but you understand that if you're working with an acrylic brush, it is a touch, right? It is a touch pattern working around the edge, not, again, trying to force it around the cuticle area. Let's go through that one more time. If I take my acrylic brush, right, for those of you guys that just joined us, make sure, again, to smash that like button. And then for those of you guys that are interested, we've got the new dish that's available on the website right now. Just went on sale. There's all types of BOGOs, protein bond, stain-resistant top coat, and then we're excited about the new pedicure system. It is absolute fire. Okay, so remember, balance, hold your brush, lightly tap, pull down, bounce, bounce, bounce. Get yourself a nice bead. Count 1, 2, 3, and then release. And then use the tip of the brush, just lightly touch. It's almost like a sliding touch that you're using as you're working around. I got a little bit of glitter right there, no problem. Once I get it down, you're gonna notice from the side, right? To get it tight, I pull from the side and the front. I pull from the side and the front, and then everything tapers into perfection. You can see as it moves down towards the free edge as I continue to brush forward. I'm going to create that beautiful arch. I'm going to create a nice tight cuticle area. Nothing is going to run into the edges. This is going to allow you to apply the product with perfection so that you don't have to spend countless hours trying to file it into shape. All right. I hope this helps. For those of you guys, again, that need information, make sure to go to www.youngnails.com. Thank you guys for joining. Look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode of Nail School. Have a wonderful day. Peace.
Subscribe channel now. Subscribe channel now. Sub and subscribe and